Testing, testing. Can you hear me now? A little bit of mic check here and there. Make sure everything's sounding right this time. Let me see. Let me double check that this is set correctly, and then we'll go in and get started. We'll use this microphone here. You guys give me a thumbs up. You guys hear me? I just want to make sure. Awesome. Hey Salvador, how's it going? Nice, you guys can hear me. Awesome. Cool. We'll go ahead and get started in just a minute. We'll give folks a few more minutes to join. Really excited coming to you guys live from our headquarters here in San Francisco, here at Julius AI headquarters. Basically, we're going to go through some onboarding. I'll share with you guys an agenda of what we're going to cover today. Really want to help you guys first understand what Julius is and how to get started. So at the end of today's session, you guys will be experts on what is Julius, the navigation, and everything else related there. Higher audio, please. All right, let me turn this up a little bit more. All right. Is this better? Let's see. I can also put the microphone a little bit closer to my mouth there. I am audible. We did have some audio issues last webinar, so just as long as you guys aren't hearing an echo, and also it's not too quiet there. I think that's my main concerns there, so all good? All right. Cool. Awesome. Better, thanks. Yeah, no echo. Okay, that's perfect. Great to know. Let's go ahead and get started then. My name's Tyler. I'm here at Julius here in San Francisco. And today is a webinar. We're going to go over onboarding, which means what is Julius and how to get started. Let me go ahead and change my screen over to this one. Really high level overview of what we're going to cover today. I think I see double here. Let me change this one there. A little bit high level overview of what we're going to cover today. First, what is Julius? You know, whether you guys have never heard of Julius before or you guys have already signed up and have been using Julius, we'll do a high level overview of what Julius is and how to use the product. We'll go through how to get started, basics as logging in, basic navigation around the app, and some onboarding questions that we typically get from folks. How to upload your first file to use in Julius. How to run your first analysis, everything from how to prompt Julius, an overview of all the different sandboxes you have at your disposal, and also data frames. And then how to create your first visualization. You know, all of these are really key steps in first unlocking your understanding of Julius, and then also how to just get started. Finally, we'll go through ways that you can customize Julius so you can get even more out of Julius than our first few steps there. And you can also continue to build on this as we keep on going. And then finally, some other resources to get you started, such as our prompting guide, which I'll share, our documentation, and also a link to join our community Slack, and as well as future webinars too. Speaking of future webinars, this is, again, the first in the onboarding series. We typically do webinars about notebooks, which is another advanced feature within Julius, and then also deep dive on several use cases, such as connectors too. So if you guys are looking for any previous content, you can see it in our YouTube channel below. You can see all of the different live webinars that we've done in the past, and then you can also even see some of the upcoming webinars that we have in the future too. You can also subscribe to our Luma, where we also host and post any of the upcoming events that we have here at Julius, including other webinars and other community events that we'll start to organize too. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Let me shift over my window one more time. And here we have the actual Julius UI. This is what you guys will see if you guys have already created an account. If you guys haven't, you can simply just go to julius.ai and you could sign up for an account here. And you can sign up for free. There's nothing you need to pay in order to get started. Every single account gets 15 free messages every single month, and this resets on the first of every month. So if you created an account last month and this is your first webinar, you're reset just it. So 15 free messages there. Several ways that you could log in, including email, password, and we also send a verification, one-time password that you guys can use to log in there. But pretty straightforward on how to get started. Go ahead and click Enter Julius here. And then this is an overview of the entire UI. Before we hop in, what is Julius, right? The easiest way to think about it is Julius is your data analyst in your pocket, right? Multiple companies and all these teams have data analysts dedicated to doing, things like visualizations or data cleaning and restructuring or even querying, right? All of these are capabilities of Julius, and you could simply just upload a file, which we'll talk through. You could tell Julius what you're trying to achieve, whether you know the specific type of analysis that you're trying to do, or if you want to have Julius just take a look and do some exploratory data analysis, is also something that Julius can do. So the world really is your oyster. And Julius has pretty much read every single data textbook out there and is going to be your data expert in your pocket, is the best way to describe it. A lot of different features here on Julius. The easiest way to get started is simply clicking this plus button, and you can see all the different ways that you could at least connect data into Julius, right? Whether you have a CSV or you have an Excel file that you've been using, maybe even a Google Sheet or something stored away in Google Drive. All of these are different ways that you could pull data into Julius for it to start exploring, analyzing, and visualizing, right? All free accounts can upload as many files as they want. However, the Pro plans and Plus plans can upload multiple files at the same time. Here, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I have a Google Drive that's connected. Again, you could simply connect your Google Drive or your SharePoint account and use that to pull in data. Or you could even just upload data too. But I'll just use my Google Drive connector here. And we'll go ahead and do my, let's see here, what should we look at today? We'll do the customer, let's do the sales transactions final, this one right here. Right away, when you upload or connect a file, Julius is going to start analyzing it right away. And you would have seen that right here where it says +1 of 1 ready, and then Julius is actually taking a look there. Over here is the chat bar, so let's go ahead and say, let's load and preview the data. And what Julius is going to do is going to take a look inside of the spreadsheet. It's going to actually write a prompt and write some code in order to fill my prompt. So here we have Julius writing some Python in order to fulfill this prompt, right? So every single thing that I'm doing right now, it all started just from that simple prompt of let's load and preview the data. Julius wrote the code to execute and to fulfill that prompt, and it's going to run it inside of this environment, all without me needing to write a single line of Python or a single line of code. This is the general interaction that you'll have with Julius, right? You'll tell Julius what you're trying to do. You'll instruct Julius, hey, I want to take a look at this data, or maybe we want to filter on this specific column or look at specific sales over a specific time period, right? Julius is going to analyze all of it, and it's going to execute all of this inside of our own environment. Every single user will get your own environment here, and you can actually see this up here on the left. If you hover over connected and you click it, there's dedicated RAM and CPU that every single user will get on Julius. Free users will typically get 8 GB of RAM. If you want to upgrade, there's several different ways that you can get even more processing power or even longer memory too. So some different ways that you could expand the resources and also give Julius a little bit more power to help fuel your analysis. But more on that later. The other cool thing that I'll show before we hop in are the suggested prompts on the bottom here. If you're like me, a lot of times when you're getting started, you might not know exactly what the end goal is of your analysis, right? Maybe you just have a spreadsheet you just want to explore. Maybe someone handed you a spreadsheet or some data and you're just not really sure what's in it. Julius will actually take a look and say, hey, here's some good questions that you could ask if you're not sure where you want to go. And the other thing you could do is just click on try new suggestions, and we'll regenerate some new prompts for you to use inside of Julius. So let's go ahead and click one of these, right? Let's try analyze sales trends over time. Again, Julius is going to think, hey, what's the best way for me to write code? And then it's going to run and execute that code inside of our environment. You don't really need to know Python. It is nice to know, but it's not something you really need to know when doing Julius or when using Julius. You could actually see this code explanation that Julius explains, hey, this is what this code does and what we're trying to achieve with this. And it'll explain every single step that it took to do it. Here we see the actual sales trends over time. And again, this came without me writing a single line of code there. And Julius will actually explain, hey, there's some trends or some interesting findings within this data. Here's some takeaways. And then suggested next steps. Hey, if you want to drill deeper, let's look at online sales versus in-store channels. Look at average order size, etc. You might be wondering what powers Julius underneath the hood, right? If you actually click on the models here, you can see all the different models we've incorporated inside of Julius and all the things that Julius has in its toolkit to fulfill the prompts and to think about, hey, what are we trying to do here? All free users will have the default model, which chooses a mix of both OpenAI and Anthropic's models. And then Plus and Pro users have more selection here, and they could use some of the more advanced models or more recent models that have been added. Our team's always adding new models as they get released, so always stay tuned here, and you can try out the new models as they're released in Julius today. Anecdotally, I think O3 is pretty decent for doing a lot of analysis work. And a lot of the Anthropic, like the Claude 4 Sonnet one, is really good for visualizing. And it's really cool that you can see a difference actually in some of the outputs. And if you want to change the model, simply click on this dropdown and you could adjust it here. While we're in this side panel here, or this bottom panel, there's a lot of other tools that are available to you. You have chart themes, which lets you update the charts that Julius will create. Whether you have, we have like a Julius theme, a scientific theme, even a business theme. If you're a night owl, like a lot of our users around the world, you could also use the dark theme, which will choose a dark palette and make it a lot more easily readable or more accessible at nighttime. Or if you're working like at a university, or you have a specific way that your company likes you to format charts or specific themes, you could actually create your own theme here too. You could select the different color palettes to use, like the primary and background colors, as well as the secondary colors that Julius will use. And then you could even do things like the line styles, line weights, all the different parts of a chart you could customize down to a T. So you can get really specific here, or you could just go with what Julius is recommending and you could use it and adjust it as you need. Once you create the theme, you could use it and then you could save it across all of the different themes and you'll see it visible here in this menu. Let's do an even more complex prompt. Let's do a breakdown of sales over time, but only show sales that are online and filter out any sales that are older than 6 months old. Typically, this is a pretty complex prompt, and you could even do even more complex prompts than this one. One tip I would give is to use what we call advanced reasoning. This is another feature we have here at Julius. If you click this, Julius will take the entire prompt and will think through the different steps that it'll need to do in order to fulfill it, right? Sometimes it'll just try to execute it all in one block of code, which you might have mixed results, right? Especially if it's a really complex prompt. But in this case, using advanced reasoning breaks it into more manageable pieces. And you'll actually see this here in the side panel when I open it up. I'll open up this one and I'll actually click on reasoning, and then we'll run this prompt and see what Julius does. So Julius is coming up with a plan on how to execute this prompt, and you can see it's come up with 3 different steps. It's going to filter the data, it's going to aggregate it, and then it's going to create the visualization that I was looking for. The other really cool thing about advanced reasoning is if there are any issues that Julius will run into, it'll automatically, like this is perfect. It's going to say, hey, I ran into an issue here. It's going to think through how best to fix this error, and it's going to just run it without me needing to instruct it. This also happens without using advanced reasoning, so you don't have to use it. I just find that using it for more complex queries or really complex things, if you're trying to do it all in one, which again, you can get mixed results, will yield better results too. But yeah, if you do run into these errors, Julius will automatically debug. And if you click on show more, you'll see, hey, let's also evaluate what went wrong and consider options for how to fix it. So again, you don't need to know Python in order to fix any of these errors. Julius will do it automatically. So here we have the outputs. It says Julius aggregated the filter online sales data by month, and then it created a plot. What I think went wrong here is I was really specific. I said last 6 months, but I think the data from this data set is older than 6 months. So let's try the most recent 6 months instead of the last 6 months. We'll see if this fixes it. We'll run it there. While Julius is running this one, we'll talk briefly about extended memory. It's one of the other features we have here in the toolbar. A lot of times when you're doing data analysis, you're not working just in one session. Maybe you're working in the morning, you have a lot of meetings, you come back, or maybe you're working late at night and then you're going to continue your work the next day or maybe a few days later, right? What extended memory does is it'll actually look at across multiple threads that you've had with Julius. We have a model that will summarize and will carry along all of the different context, whether it's something that you're working on or specific files that you've uploaded, or even different prompts that you've used in Julius. Extended memory will expand that window, and Julius will have more context about what you were working on. Really helpful if you're continuing work across multiple days. If you have specific formulas or specific business context that you've added into a thread before, it's really helpful just to expand Julius's context just so it knows a little bit more about what you're working on rather than making it just thread specific. So extended memory does help with that too. Cool. So you see, yeah, the sales here's a little bit better than this previous chart. And again, it's because if you look at the data, there's no data from the last 6 months. It's from the most recent 6 months is probably a better way to use it. Cool. We'll do one more prompt here, and let's actually switch it up. I'll go to Anthropic's model, and we'll say, let's visualize sales over time by any customer demographics, graphic data that we have. This time I'm going to actually, instead of looking at the reasoning, let's take a look at the data explorer. A lot of you might be wondering, hey, what is underneath all of this data, right? Like, what is powering the visualization that Julius is doing, or if it's doing any aggregation, where's this data even going? Well, all of this is populated into what we call data frames, which is a fancy word for just saying like a spreadsheet within Julius. And you can actually see this if you expand these windows, and you can see what is making up all the different data frames here. So in this one, monthly loyalty will show, hey, we have different loyalty tiers inside of this data set and amounts by time. Or if you have another one, we could look at the recent online sales, and you could see the transaction IDs, dates, etc. Really useful if you're first not sure what makes up these data sets, or second, if you just want to monitor what Julius is doing, if it's transforming data for you, or if you are filtering out specific data, or if you're going to generate a visualization. It's always good to just double check the data before Julius will run with it. So typically when I'm doing analysis, or when we see a lot of power users doing analysis, they'll do their analysis in the side window, expand the right sidebar, and then just watch the data as Julius transforms it or works with it. And here you can see, again, one of the differences between using some of the OpenAI and Anthropic models. The styling of the chart looks a little bit different, but the colors, all of these are slightly different from what Julius had originally done up above. One thing I'll share, when you do have these visualizations, imagine like, hey, like I really love this. I want to share it with somebody. A few easy ways for you to share these, right? Simplest way, simply just copy the visualization and paste it. Whether you're pasting it inside of Slack or Teams or even just an email thread, that's the one way that you could just at least just copy the image directly into whatever you're using. The other way is also just to download it. Pretty straightforward and explanatory. It'll download the image that was created. And the other third way that you could do this is click share, and you can actually share this thread with someone. You can make a public thread, and then when they copy this into a new tab, they'll be able to see all the different prompts from inside of this thread, including all the different code that Julius had run. We find this useful if someone, if you're a non-technical person like myself and you're sharing data with maybe your data analytics team or someone who has a little bit more context about the data and how it works, they could actually look at the Python code themselves and just fact check, hey, this looks correct, or maybe this is something that I would change too. And they could even update the code themselves and get started with Julius too. The last way that you could also share, I didn't really mention this one, is if you click on the 3 dots, you could also download all of your analysis and conversation with Julius, either as a PDF, docx, or if you are familiar with Jupyter Notebooks, you could even copy it and use it in your own environment too, whether you're using your own Jupyter Notebook or you're doing it inside of Google Colab. And then there's one last way, which I'll share, a lot of different ways for you to take the insights out of Julius. You can click Generate Analysis Report. Block to pop up here. I'm going to allow this one. Let's see. I'll try one more time. I'm going to generate analysis report. And what this will do is it's actually going to summarize all of the different insights and findings, as well as the visualizations, into something that's a little bit more shareable without being as in the weeds, right? So you could see the initial analysis and key insights that I had done, those last visualizations I had created, and then you could even download this as a PDF. Most common use case I've seen for this one is if you're on like a marketing team or you're working on the business operations team and you want to give your upper leadership or upper management a report without giving them all of the different Python code. Easy way for you to just redact away that information and make it a little bit more legible or more, in tune for what you're looking for that audience, right? other ways that you could go in and get started. Cool. And then the last thing, if you do want to download any of these data frames, a couple of different ways, right? If, for example, you want to explore, say, for example, this recent online data frame, you could just download it here, and you could download it as a CSV. And the other cool thing that you could do is simply export to Sheets, right? If I were to click this one, and this, again, is if you connected to your Google Sheets account, you can see us exporting this specific data frame. And then you could actually use it and explore it inside of, Google Sheets, which I know a lot of companies use or a lot of teams use, which you can be a little bit more familiar with. The other cool life hack or life tip that I'll share is that you could make updates to this as well. You could update, you could filter, you could change some of the formatting, and you could simply just upload it back into Julius by pressing the plus button, connecting to Google Drive, and then selecting the file that we had just uploaded. So it's kind of like a little engine that you've built if you do need to update or edit any data that you have there. Finally, let's talk about some different ways that you could customize Julius outside of the ones we mentioned, like chart themes. If you click on the little cog wheel here, there's a couple other ways that you could customize Julius, and we'll click on this menu. Here's where you could add in any custom instructions into Julius, whether you want to change the way that Julius is speaking to you, like if you speak Spanish, for example, which is a really popular language here on Julius, or if you want Julius to define certain variables or different formulas, you could specify them here in custom instructions. For example, if you calculate, ARR, annualized recurring revenue, a different way, or if you calculate NDR, like net dollar retention, a specific way, add in that context here into custom instructions. And again, Julius will take it with it wherever you go, sort of like a backpack of context about your business and use case too. Secret keys, if you guys do have APIs that you use, whether it's a specific website that you have data stored in, or if you have a data warehouse that is only accessible via API, this is one way that you could add in those API keys securely in a secure way. A little bit more complex, I would say we have a couple of videos in our YouTube channel where we walk through this process if you do have your data stored away. The other one that I will call out is if you open this side panel here, you'll see our new data connectors button. If you click on this one, you can see all the different connectors that our team's been building connectors to allow you to pull that data directly into Julius. We recently had a webinar on this last week. You should be able to see the recording. We'll share it after the call in an email so you guys can see it. But we walk through how to set up all these different connectors and the way that you can pull data directly, whether it's in Google Drive, which we actually showed today, or if it's stored away into something like Postgres or in your own BigQuery data warehouse, or if you're even having things on Notion or an Intercom, there's even MCPs or Model Context Protocol, which we can use to connect directly to Julius, pull that data in, analyze it, all without you not needing to download the data, upload the data, download the results, upload the results. It's all maintained through these connectors too. Watch out for that video. We'll send a link to that recording from that previous webinar where we walk through this a little bit more in depth, but feel free to get started here and trying some of these out. The other thing to call out here is if you do have any questions, again, this goes more into like the resources to help you get started. Feel free to take a look at our documentation, which we're updating every week. Here you can see all the different features that we talked about, including our quick start guide, which is really useful for just to get started. A lot of the different context that I've added today. Even things like our Teams product, if you are working with either a team at your school or maybe at your company, different features that are available to you to help you guys get started. And then even things like our notebooks. Notebooks is another way that you could use Julius, kind of a little bit more of a learning curve. We do have a notebook specific webinar, which we have coming up next week that you could tune into, or you could check out the recordings from our previous webinars on our YouTube Live. But we walk through all the different ways that you could also use Julius and iterate even more on your data, more so than this threads interface, which I was showing earlier. And then finally, we have a community Slack, which we've worked on setting up. If you simply go to, let me see if I can find it. This is one place. This is our community forum. Let me go to julius.ai. And if you scroll down to our bottom, if you click on community, this will actually take you to our new Slack channel that we've set up. We're working on building this out, but a really great place for you to at least introduce yourself or reach out if you have any questions, and the team will get back to you ASAP. Cool. Last thing before we hop over to just final thoughts and next steps, take a look at notebooks, which I mentioned here, and then files. That's one thing I didn't mention. Any of the files that you've uploaded into Julius or that you have generated with Julius will be visible here in the My Files section. Again, all files will be deleted after 1 week of inactivity, which means, hey, I didn't log in for a week. This just helps us make sure that, hey, we're not keeping any data that we don't need, and separately that, it's not just accumulating a lot of unnecessary files inside of our file system. So all files are deleted after 1 week there. The other common question that we get from folks is security, data privacy and data security, and how does Julius actually handle your data, including all of these files? For that, we could simply go to julius.ai, and down at the bottom, there is our Trust Center, which you can take a look at. This one has all of our different policies, including how do we manage your data, what happens with data as it's being transferred, or hey, what about your compliance? Are you guys even SOC 2 Type 2? Well, answer to that is we are. And you can track all of our progress on not just our SOC 2 Type 2, but our GDPR compliance and any other industry standard compliance that we're working on here at Julius in our Trust Center. If you do want to take a look at our most recent SOC 2 Type 2 audit report, you could request access here, and then we'll go ahead and grant you, hey, these are the findings from the auditor too. If you need any specific certificate of insurance or any other docs that are available here, and then you can also take a look at any of our sub-processors that Julius uses inside of the Trust Center. If you guys have any specific security-related questions, feel free to reach out at security@julius.ai, and then we'll get back to you. And then you can also check out our security page here. It has a lot of high-level overviews of what are we working on here at Julius, and then what are some of the high-level sort of processes that we use when it comes to your data. One other resource for you guys to reach out to is our team at julius.ai. That's our address here. That's linked to our contact us button. If you guys have any questions related to billing, or if you have any questions related to access of your account, or maybe you're just looking to get started, this is one other place that you could post to. But I would recommend, hey, just join our community Slack. We'll be a lot more active and more responsive there. Cool. Any questions from folks? Let me go ahead and transfer over to our last screen. As a thank you for everyone who's joining, watch out for your inbox. We're going to send over a code for you guys to use. This is a code that you could use in case you're not subscribed to Julius yet. We'll give you 5 free days of Julius Pro just as a thank you for hopping on and as a thank you for your time. One lucky winner will receive a swag item from our merch store. We'll follow up with that. But if you go to merch.julius.ai, you can see all the different swag items that we're working on, as well as some pictures of our team. Subscribe to our Luma, YouTube, and then all of our other socials just to know a little bit more about, hey, what are the Julius team working on, right? When's the next webinar that's coming up? I already mentioned the community Slack, but again, if you guys have any feedback as you're getting started, whether there's something that's confusing about the onboarding, or maybe you wish that there was a specific feature that you had, let us know. It's a really great place for us to just get feedback from y'all, and then also for you to interact and chat with some other users that are here at using Julius. Again, Julius community, we have over 2 million users around the world. Super thankful for all of them. But it's one of the best things about it is we have a lot of users around the world that are working on some really interesting things using Julius. And it's always really cool to take a look at what they're doing, and also just see if they have any cool things that they're doing with Julius itself. And then finally, we're going to send out a survey after this webinar. Let us know if there's any feedback, if there's any specific topics that we could have covered more in depth, or if you have an idea for a future webinar, let us know. If you want us to dive into a specific use case, right? Maybe you're doing finance work and you wish, hey, Tyler, I wish I covered a little bit more of a finance use case than just the sales one. Totally down to do it. We've built out a lot of notebooks and different threads through some of these use cases too. That being said, I'm going to take a look at the chat one more time. Oh, and one other thing I'll share is this prompting guide. Whether you're an expert on prompting or maybe you're just getting started with Julius, this will tell you a little bit of the best practices for just what is Julius and also how do you get started, including starting small with small prompts, different ways that you could explore, clean, and prepare data and analyze and visualize it, as well as the overall example of an analysis using Julius, right? We'll ship this over in an email after the webinar. But again, we do these webinars every week. Next week, we'll do one on notebooks, more in depth, where we could talk through how to use notebooks and just getting started there. It's a lot more features, but just again, a little bit more of a learning curve. Cool. I'm gonna hop over and go back to which one? This one? Cool. And I'll take a look at the chat here. Awesome. Just started using it yesterday. Nice. That's good to know. Again, let us know any feedback as you're using Julius. If there's something that just isn't intuitive or something that you love, our engineering team loves feedback. Let me tell you, they stay up all day and all night. All of these different connectors that we've built has been from feedback from users. Like, hey, I wish I could connect to my Google Drive, or hey, I wish I could connect to my OneDrive. So that we definitely are listening to any feedback that you have. No SQL Server connection. That is a huge one, right? So that is something that also comes up quite a lot, right? I think a lot of folks that are using tools like Replit or Lovable, or even just have their own SQL databases somewhere, we hear it from not just users, but also from enterprise customers. Definitely something that's on the roadmap that we're trying to build out. So stay tuned. We do build out like 1 or 2 data connectors every week. It's kind of hard to keep track of, but we could release, and I know SQL and SQL servers are probably the most common ones there. So we'll let you guys know. If it is accessible via Postgres SQL, like PostgresDB, that's one way that you could also connect, but I know that's not fulfilling for all of the SQL Server requirements, so we'll follow up there. All right, great question. What is in your roadmap? One thing that the team is working on, this is a little bit of a sneak preview, but one thing that the team is working on is scheduled runs, right? So let me go back and share my screen. Here, we'll go back to the demo screen. If you are familiar with notebooks, or if you're not, notebooks are a way that you could sort of accumulate all these different prompts. And first, it's good for iterating on the first level of analysis when you're first getting started. And hey, it's easier to rerun cells that we talked about and also reorder cells if you need to. Well, imagine you do have like a really well ironed out notebook. Maybe you have one that's like, oh, this is how I can analyze. I'll post one later today, but how I can analyze like webinar attendance, and are we even providing value to folks, right? If this is a certain analysis you want to do every single week, you can actually schedule these runs. And what we'll actually do is run this notebook on whatever time you specify. This is a brand new feature that we just released out, but you can only imagine what this will lead to, right? Some folks think that this is going to help us build out dashboards, or maybe this is a way for us to give reporting like automatically, right? Or maybe you could schedule email notifications. So many different things. This is one of the things that are on our roadmap. The other ones that I'll give a sneak preview of are our connectors, right? I did mention we are building out a lot more connectors. You can only imagine we have Google Ads. The next one that we'll have is Meta Ads, since those make up the 2 juggernauts of the ads world, as well as any other MCP connectors that we have available to us. There's a lot of cool companies that are running their own MCP servers. So just making sure that they're compatible with Julius, first of all. And second, it makes it easy for you guys to get started. For example, if you wanted to connect to Intercom, all you have to do is simply click it and it'll take you to the login screen there. But again, I think in terms of the roadmap, top things to look out for are scheduled runs, something that's top of mind, and then separately connectors. That's been the top of mind for the last month and a half, ever since we got started using our Postgres connector internally. But yeah, stay tuned. We want to release more content just to give you guys a little bit more about what Julius is working on. The other thing you can take a look at too is our changelog. I hope that's the right address. Yeah, changelog. And here you can see actually play-by-play of what we're releasing too that we're not covering in these webinars. Cool. Will Julius eliminate us data analysts? I don't think so, right? I think there's a lot of context that all data analysts have, whether it's related to the data that you guys are using, your business use case, right? I think, at least from our experience, it's just a way for us to get and help empower folks that are first non-technical. There's a lot of folks that just don't know how to write SQL to begin with, or how to even like set up a Python environment. I was super frustrated when I first got started using Colab and also tried to set up my own Jupyter notebook. It's a little complex, even using ChatGPT to guide me. Hopefully that'll just help equip a lot of people who just never had this accessible to them, right? And then separately, I think it's just going to only make data analysts even more capable, right? One of the cool ways that I've seen folks using it is building ML models directly in Julius. It's a lot easier for you to maintain the data if you have like evaluation or test split data sets. Julius can do it all without you not needing to just do it on your own environment. And we give you the processing power without you needing to set up your own VM, your own virtual environment, right? So I don't think so. Hard for me to guarantee the future, but at least from our point of view, we're here to help empower everybody with whether you're technical or not. So yeah, cool. Really enjoyed chatting with you guys. I love the questions. It's really great. Again, stay tuned. We'll follow up after the call with some codes for you guys to use if you guys aren't subscribed to Julius yet. And then also we'll reach out with all the follow-up stuff too, including the how to get started guide, as well as all the other resources that are available. Looking forward to seeing you guys in the next webinar. Again, next week we have one on Tuesday for notebooks, and we might do one on teams in case you're curious how to get started using a team. But it'll be a great opportunity for us to just show you, hey, whether you are familiar or not familiar with notebooks, like Jupyter notebooks, how does this actually work in Julius, and what are some of the benefits there? Awesome. Thank you so much for joining, and then we'll look forward to seeing you guys in the next webinar. Peace.